I talk about social media, it's a visibility and credibility piece. The truth is that you can use any of these marketing channels as a lead generation tool. You just have to treat it that way. You can't be like, well, I post and why am I not getting clients? It's like you have to have a very specific system of here's an offer, they go here, they opt in, they get an email. I mean, whatever it is, it has to be very specific. You can't dabble in a lot of different things and get traction.
Hey everyone, in this episode, I had a chance to talk to Mary Cravets. She is an award-winning client generation expert and international speaker who helps entrepreneurs significantly grow their businesses without working nights and weekends. Using her methods, the majority of her clients quickly increase their income 50% or more. Clients range from the former CFO of Microsoft North America to coaches in their first few years of business to thought leaders in a variety of service professions. Mary is also a huge fan of roller coasters, obsessed with otters and rocks she finds on the beach, and is a member of her local NAACP branch. I'm sure you are going to enjoy the conversation we've had in this episode, so stay tuned. Hey, Mary, welcome to the Master Delegator podcast. I'm so excited that you are here with me today because the topic that we're going to be talking about today is something that I'm very curious about, how we can generate client the most effective way. So thank you again for showing up today. How's life? How are you doing?
It's good. It's good. A lot of the country's all chilly and I'm in California, so it's
I'm jealous. My voice, see, my voice is hoarse right now because of allergies, and so please bear with me if I sound too raspy or whatever. But yeah, anyway, I want to dive right in. Like what I mentioned, this is a topic that I'm very interested talking about or learning more about, because when you think of generating client,
Mhm.
we always think about Facebook ads, Instagram reel, or Google SEO or whatever, but nobody rarely or people rarely talk about ways to get or to attract new clients for free, in the most profitable way. So being expert in this area, what do you think is the most effective marketing strategy that will simplify and streamline the process of client generation?
All right. Well, the thing that simplifies the most, simplifies client generation is it's kind of the first thing is very big picture. It's understanding where do clients come from in your industry. And for most service-based businesses, the number one source of new business is referrals. And you're talking about advertising, you're talking about Instagram, you're talking about all these things. And what most service-based businesses don't know is that there is, I think of marketing as this big picture. It's like all this stuff that you could do. And for service-based businesses, I like to divide it out into two things. One is visibility and credibility, and then the other is lead generation. So considering that most business comes through referrals, the way it works is someone knows you, Kristy. They say, Kristy's great. You've got to hire her. That person who's referred to you is immediately going to go where? They're going to go onto the internet. They're going to go to your website. They're going to go to all their favorite social media channels and make sure that you are credible. So this means, credibility and visibility is to back up the people who are coming to you. It is not to generate leads. And so understanding that helps people divide out their time they spend in each of them, because the priority is to do lead generation activities. And I think of the difference between lead generation and visibility and credibility is for visibility and credibility, you're kind of hoping your ideal client will stumble across you. And lead generation is you're throwing yourself in their path.
Right.
So the lead generation is activities is where I'm an expert in service-based businesses, so I speak mostly to that. That's where you should put your first primary effort, your freshest energy in the morning or whenever you're sharpest during the day. And in boiling down, like referrals is the strategy, but what are the lead generation actions? It's like you have to boil it all the way down to what do you do on Tuesday morning to generate more referrals? And most
Yeah.
people come up with a big question mark when they get there.
Speaking of question mark, I have a question mark for you. So how do you think a business owner can increase visibility and credibility?
Well, I don't, so my first reaction is that's the wrong question to ask.
Okay. That's okay.
So
Yeah.
you absolutely can, you can increase visibility and credibility by doing all the things online, all the, more posting, more this, more that. The problem is visibility and credibility is not client generation. So if you want, if the end result is, if the end result is you want more credibility and visibility, then just do that. But if you want more clients, if that's actually your end goal, then it's getting clearer and getting clearer about what are the activities, the lead generation activities. And I'll give you an example. So if you want to receive more referrals, what you need to do is identify the people who are most likely to refer to you, probably people in your network you already know, and then decide how you're going to nurture those relationships every single month. And then how do you find new people? How do you find new relationships to nurture? And how do you become very intentional about those steps? Because those are the people who are going to refer to you. Those are the people who are sources of new business for you. And visibility and credibility can be a lot of like throwing stuff out there and seeing what sticks. And it's just not, the people who are out there in the internet world and on social media and stuff, they don't know you. And so that whole trust process that people have to go through before they do business with you, it's much slower and it's not as linear as developing those relationships for referral generation.
Yeah. And you know what? One thing that I really notice is no matter how much videos you put out there on social media, you are still not going to be able to connect genuinely to your target clients, because as we know, most people nowadays, when they think of social media posts, when they see someone posting on social media, they don't really believe it 100%, because everything now can be edited, right? So if you post a beautiful photo of yourself, even if it's not edited, they're like, filter, you're editing it, blah, blah, blah. So I think social media alone, the credibility of it, is not that really good. And so, I mean, yes, posting videos out there, because I do that too. We have this podcast interview right now, and I have a video of this podcast interview. And so what I'm gonna do after this is I'm gonna I'm gonna have one of my team members edit some clips and then post it on social media, but still posting a video of this podcast interview on social media doesn't mean that you have a credibility already. Sometimes what it takes to earn trust from other people is to really talk to them, either one-on-one or in masses, in a group setting. And you know what, one of the things that I have been realizing lately is that sometimes when somebody see you speak in person, there's no see you speak in person. When somebody see you speak in person, they're like, I really want to get to know this person because her personality is just so awesome. It's like she's the CEO, but she's very down to earth, And so I think sometimes, your personality, whether you're posting something online or not, that has a big impact as to whether your client or your prospect is going to hire you or not. So speaking of, what do you think is the best way to get your target audience's trust? How can you get them to trust you?
Yeah. Well, I think there's first of all, thinking of it as a long term. It's not a one and done. And I talk about social media, it's a visibility and credibility piece. The truth is that you can use any of these marketing channels as a lead generation tool. You just have to treat it that way. You can't be like, well, I post and why am I not getting clients? It's like you have to have a very specific system of here's an offer, they go here, they opt in, they get an email. I mean, whatever it is, it has to be very specific. You can't dabble in a lot of different things and get traction. With service-based businesses, top two ways they get clients is through referrals and speaking. So I dive deep into committing to those things, and then I use social media to support and stay in touch with. So with lead generation, the marketing, it's knowing how to be very specific and knowing the job that everything you're touching is doing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's just such a simple thing, but it's like boiling it down to the essentials. That's what people are not looking at.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I didn't answer your question, but
yeah, but that totally makes sense, and you've been in the business for like more than 10 years, and you are a client generation expert. So you help businesses generate clients, and you're expert in that area. So based on your experience, what do you think is the best way to attract new clients without even paying for anything?
Yeah. Well, regardless of whether you're paying for it or not, the best way to attract clients is however your business has been attracting clients in the past. I mean, that's like the first step I ask people to do. I recommend people do in all the talks I do is say, go find out what's working and then dive deeper into that. Instead of doing 17 things, do the 3 things that are and like double down on the things that are working. It's not complicated, but when people are very busy, sometimes taking the time to evaluate that will fall through the cracks for sure. Now, in my world, one of the things, again, for service-based businesses, that is an incredible way to expand your influence, to raise your visibility, to attract new clients. I love speaking. I use unpaid speaking. Over the course of the last 6 years or so, I've earned over $1 million just from the client revenues that have come as a result of unpaid speaking events.
Yeah. So that's why you're here, right? You love speaking. You're talking right now about your expertise. So, you know what? I also believe that, speaking at different events or just being a guest on a podcast can help your business tremendously. But as you know, not all business owners are very confident about, speaking to a group of people. And as a matter of fact, I was one of them. One of my hindrances was English isn't my first language. I didn't have confidence to like talk to a lot of people and not knowing what exactly to say, and I have fear of running out of vocabularies. But now that I have my podcast, this is kind of like my practice my practice talking to different types of entrepreneurs, and so I'm in a way have overcome that challenge already. But what can you say to those people who want to be a speaker, or maybe not a speaker, maybe who wants to become a podcast guest, but they're not really confident about doing that?
Okay, so I don't know that I have a great tip for this. I tend to work with people who like to speak. They want to use that because they already are very comfortable with it, and what they want is the strategy behind it, because they have a lot of experiences of being in front of audiences, and the audience is like, oh, we love you, but they don't get any business from it. And so there's this disconnect of strategy, being in front of the right audience and structuring your content in a very specific way and having a call to action and so on. Like the strategy just isn't there. For people who aren't confident, one of 2 things. Number 1 is you may not want to do speaking. You may not want to do this. I truly believe leveraging our strengths is going to get you further faster. So if you see that, quote unquote, everybody is speaking and you have some idiot in your face saying, well, you're going to fail if you don't speak. I mean, because you've seen these salespeople, it's awful. If that's the motivation and you feel like you're going to miss the boat, but you are brilliant at talking to people one-on-one, you are brilliant at writing, you are whatever your brilliance is, like figure out how to leverage that. Because a little of my backstory is just that I had a burnout, and I literally had 4 hours of energy a week to run my business, so I couldn't screw around. So anything that was difficult for me, that didn't feel natural for me, I couldn't waste my time on it. So for people who maybe aren't naturally inclined to speak, number one, find something else. Or number two, there's a great organization called Toastmasters, and they really are about what we call platform skills, like how to get comfortable being in front of an audience. So with that, starting there, so you can start practicing it. Because if your vision for what you want more clients, you want more visibility, if that is stronger than your nervousness about being in front of people, then go build those skills. But that vision has to be stronger in order to invest the time.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
Are you sick and tired of being overwhelmed and afraid you'll never scale your business? Meet Smart VAs. Unlike many virtual assistant agencies that only assign one dedicated virtual assistant, we provide flexibility for growing businesses by assigning a team of experienced virtual assistants that can do different tasks to support your continuous growth. Visit smartvas.online to book a free discovery call and start growing your business.
These clients that came to you, you said that they come to you not because they want to build their confidence speaking in front of people. They come to you because you have the effective strategy on how to get leads out of speaking to 1,000 people. Why do you think they have that confidence already? And I'm sure you're gonna say that because that's one of their strengths. But is there any other observations? Do you think experience and being knowledgeable in what they do helps with that confidence?
Yes, I think that it's something like 1% of the population likes public speaking. So we're talking about a very, culturally, it's not a large number. The problem is that when you are a speaker, you usually hang out with speakers. So it feels like everybody wants to be a speaker, or everyone's an author or whatever. And it truly is not true. There are so many people would rather be set on fire than be put in front of an audience. So the thing that happens for a lot of speakers is they have a lot of confidence in their message, in their content. They're like, I have this thing, I know how to do it, I'm brilliant at it. But then they get into what I call the speaker death spiral. So they have all this joy for speaking, they have all this joy for the work they're doing. And then someone comes up to them and says, hey, Kristy, I'd love for you to do a talk on this. And it's not exactly their area of expertise. So they take a lot of time, but they go, oh, yeah, because they love to speak, they love to serve. So they're like, yes. And so they take all this time to create entirely new content. And and the audience loves them, and they get no clients. So they've just taken all this time for no client generation. And the problem is the audience loves them so much that they get a couple referrals and they go, hey, you know what, Kristy, could you do a talk on this? And then could you do a talk on this? So now they're inventing all these new talks, and they're still excited about speaking. The win of being asked to speak feels like enough. They get no clients because their topics aren't aligned with their services and their brilliance. And eventually they've taken way too much time, and they're like, this speaking thing doesn't work. I don't like it anymore. It's a waste of time, and I'm not getting any clients. And so they go, this doesn't work. And what I hope, if someone's hearing this, because I know there's someone listening to this going, oh my God, that happened to me, because it's happened to anyone who's done any speaking at all. What I want you to know is that It is just about strategy. If you take the time to say, here are my ideal clients. They are in these audiences. They want to hear about these topics. And I am willing to structure my talk so that it gives massive value and also gives them the bigger picture of what could be accomplished if they worked with me. And then invite them to have a conversation about working together. If you're willing to do those things, it can work for you. It can be joyful again for you.
Yeah, I love that. Can you give us like an example scenario? Like for instance, I am a business coach and I love speaking, but I've been speaking for like a year now, but I'm not getting leads. And how do I know who my ideal clients are, where they are hanging out, what topic I should talk about, the structure, and how can I invite them, to be encourage them to be a part of what I do, or to invite them to become my client, like, can you give us like a scenario, like maybe like,
okay, so
say one of your clients, just don't say the exact name.
no, well, okay, so first of all, what you're at, like the questions you just asked is like 6 of my courses. Okay, so it's not a small question.
I know, right?
So yeah, but you bring up something really important, and that is everything hinges on understanding your ideal client. Like if you know who your ideal client is, and by the way, first pro tip here about ideal client is when you're describing your ideal client, that description never starts with the words, I'd be willing to work with. Okay. Your ideal client has to be that person who is high level, you can serve at the highest level, who will pay you at the highest level, whose life you can transform in the highest level, who is most ready to hire. So speaking to like what is happening 5 minutes before they hire you, what is the straw that broke the camel's back, what is the thing that is happening right away? And this is where there's a lot of confusion, because one, people will be like, well, my ideal client can be all of these people. It's like, no, they can't. That's one thing. And the other thing is they lower their standards. I mean, there's so many things that people do to get the ideal client wrong. But I'll give you an example for I'm trying to think of someone other. I'm going to use me because I just know my stuff the most.
Yeah.
So my ideal client is someone who they've been going along in their business for a few years. They are not shiny anymore. They're like, okay, look, you can't just go out there and be nice to people and they're going to hire you. They like the shine is off. They understand that if they want to grow their business, they're going to have to do some things differently. They feel a little lost. They don't love sales and marketing. And they want more clients. They want a clear plan. They want specifics, and they want to have free time. They don't want to be working all the time. So those are my people. So when I started speaking, I talked about time management.
Mm-hmm.
None of my programs are about time management. They're about client generation. And so there was that disconnect. I was speaking to groups that had employees in them. My clients are all business owners. I've had one non-business owner in the entire time I've worked for 12 years.
Right.
So my topics had to align with from two, if you think of it as this kind of spectrum, think here's your title right in the middle. On one end, you've got your ideal client, all the things that they know they want. And over here, I've got my programs, and it's all the things that it delivers. And so what is that sweet spot right in the middle that sparks, that's captivating? So my titles are More Clients, Less Marketing, How to Create More Leads and Income by Doing Less. That's what my ideal clients want.
Wow.
That's what they want. Speaking for free, a surprisingly profitable way to attract new clients.
Mm-hmm. It is.
That's what they want, because they know they like to speak more, but it has to attract my ideal client. I have to include client generation in it. If I don't include that, I'm going to get people who want to do paid speaking and keynote speaking. And so your title does a lot of the heavy lifting for sorting out who shows up in your audience.
That makes sense a lot. Wow. Let's talk about delegation. We've had clients who are coaches and speakers at the same time, and they seem not to know what to delegate, because it's something that they're not good at. They're like, I'm good at speaking, I'm not good at delegation. What can I delegate? So what do you think, because you are, in a way, a coach, right? You're helping speakers, generate clients, and you're also a speaker. So how do you delegate?
Well, first of all, I see it very much like I do the skill of client generation. A lot of people come out of corporate, they come out of whatever their background is, and they don't have this skill set of client generation. They don't have the skill set of delegation. And they are stepping into, and maybe they did that in the corporate world, but the corporate world was not about, it wasn't their baby.
No.
It wasn't all about them. It wasn't their name on the bottom line of everything, responsible for everything. So it's harder. It's much harder to let go of things. But the other thing is that a lot of things aren't set up as processes. And so they're not process dependent, they're people dependent. And for me, I've been actually, I don't know if you know this, but the business right before the business I started this, I was a virtual assistant for 2 years.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I come from that world, and what it gave me was the ability to look at people's businesses and make suggestions. And they'd say, no, Mary, just send my newsletter. And I'd be like, okay, that strategically doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but you're the business owner. And so I learned what people don't know. And
they just want the job. They just want the job done without even building processes.
Yes.
Surprisingly.
So the processes are a very big deal. And so the way that, like, most of the stuff that I build, it's okay, I run out and I try everything, and then I start systemizing, going, okay, here are the things that are the same each time, and then how can I hand them off? And actually, we haven't even talked about this, but the fact is I just built a program for speakers, because the big barrier they don't even know they have is getting booked and being consistent about it and doing outreach. And so we designed a program that helps them be very consistent with that. But not only that, for them to mostly rely on an assistant to bring their assistant. So their assistant comes to us with questions instead of going to them because they don't know the answers anyway, and just supporting speakers like that. But to build a program like that, where my team is leading it, it's like these layers of processes you have to be building. And we think we are so indispensable, and we just have to let that go.
Yeah, exactly. And I love that you brought up, getting booked and, doing different types of outreaches to get booked. As a coach or as a speaker, that's something that you shouldn't be doing, really, because your time should be spent on things that you are good at and you enjoy the most. And I'm not sure about, I mean, maybe some speakers, they love doing admin tasks, but I feel like that's a waste of their time. You can hire an assistant to do an outreach for you, and then you automatically just get booked, without even getting involved. And I feel like that's very important if you are a speaker. Yeah.
As long as you have the strategy behind it. This is one thing that I have found, is that you're going to pay a lot more for an expert to go do things for you, like a marketing person, a social media strategist, and so forth. But if you have a process and a system and your strategy locked down, then you can hire more of an entry-level person and just plug them into the strategy.
Right. Exactly.
And they can get the same results. But what people try to do is they try to go cheap, and they're like, oh, this is a sharp person, and they can just figure out my social media. Just go, social media, and they don't know strategy.
Sadly, you know what? That is happening. That's a reality, and that's why I have this this podcast, to teach people how to delegate. And so you also you are a proponent of delegation, and currently you are delegating your client service delivery, and that is something that is nerve-wracking to you. Why is that?
You know what? It it isn't that nerve-wracking. Like the service delivery that I am delegating in my mind is completely appropriate because it isn't because it's process driven. My team learn the processes, they execute the processes for me and for other clients. And so when they are meeting with my clients, when they are doing the calls with my clients, they're speaking from a place of expertise. They don't need to have experience on stages to know how to go into Google and search and know how to research other speakers and find opportunities. They don't need to know. I mean, we have everything. They need to know where the resources are so they can direct our clients to where to get them.
Mhm.
And yeah, so I'm much better, but yeah, it took, well, I'm doing this new program and I stayed in every call for 6 months because I'm the owner. That's what you do. You watch, you make sure your team's got what they need. You make those adjustments. And literally in like 2 days, I'm stepping out of most of those calls.
That's really good. So at first it was something that was nerve-wracking to you, delegating that to your team members at first, but now that you have your processes and that you have trained them,
Yeah.
it's easy peasy. You have
Yeah.
you have peace of mind that they're doing the right things.
And I think people resist delegating sometimes because they say, oh, they hear, oh, you should be the CEO of your business and you shouldn't, and you should have them doing service delivery. And it feels like so many things that they don't even start. And it's like, you know what? Have someone send out your newsletter, have someone post for you the creative the writing or the whatever, have them post for you. Like start small to get in the habit. Because I didn't start by delegating service delivery. That's insane. I mean, when you first, so I feel like I think the biggest, and you probably see this all or nothing
Right.
attitude about delegation. Like I just have to get rid of everything and I'm the CEO and I don't do any. It's like, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. And you will hold yourself back or you'll put so much pressure on yourself to keep your hands off of things that actually you should have your hands on for a little while.
Yeah. And you know what, regardless if you're the CEO or not, you need to delegate. Delegation is not about your title. Delegation, it's all about your responsibility, because if you have too much responsibilities on your plate, sooner or later the quality of your work is not going to be where it should be because you're doing a lot of things already. So yeah, well, this has been really great. I feel like we can talk for another 2 hours, but but we need to stop, Mary.
Okay.
But although I'm enjoying it, where can people find you online, and what can you do for your target clients?
Yes. So really the first thing that I feel like everyone needs to know is where to best spend your time. Like cut through all the noise, all of the experts that are shouting things at you, go, okay, if this is what I want, if this is where I am in my business, if these are my challenges, where is the best place to focus my time and energy? So I love to answer that question first, and I make it really easy. If you go to simplygetclients.com, that's my website, simplygetclients.com. On the homepage, there's this enormous arrow that points over to a button that says take the quiz. And it's a 5-minute assessment where you literally just narrow down into here is where you need to focus now. The content that I give for that is very focused, but it's very complete. I hate quizzes that are like, you're a unicorn or it's just like, that is useless. I give, here are the first 3 things to do. And then I go down below. And if you want to know all the details about those 3 things, here's how. And I give additional resources. So that is where I would start. And if you can't find what you're looking for, just go over to our contact page. Me and my team were very, very responsive. And we were talking about titles today. Very, very often I do a talk called Captivating Talk Titles. It's a workshop. And if you contact me through the contact page and you'd like access to that, anybody through this podcast, I will give a free pass to, because I usually have it as an instant download too. It's called Captivating Talk Titles. And it really answers that question of how to really nail that piece of the speaker strategy.
That is really awesome. Well, I might check out those links too, although I'm not a speaker.
Yet.
Yet. Well, thank you so much for your time, Mary.
My pleasure, Kristy.